I'd like to say a few words before looking at the artwork about Gerald Porter, known to many of us as Jerry Porter. And I want to say that he was an old friend of the Institute. It was very interesting because I happened to be the one who picked up the phone at the Institute when he called in from upstate New York. And I discovered that he was a college professor for the State University of New York system. And he'd been very interested in reading the Book of the Dead and other books by E.J. Gold. And he wanted to see if he could incorporate it into his college teaching. And the whole thing was very amazing. It was an amazing contact. And, we spoke off and on for years with Jerry Porter. And I believe he's one of just a handful of people who actually did teach the American Book of the Dead and the Human Biological Machine in college classes. He would put them on his reading lists, even though the classes were for, I believe they were like Introduction to Psychology and Sociology and Political Science and things like that. But he would have a added reading list, and he would just sprinkle a couple of EJ's books in there and recommend to people that they have a look at them. And I think in psychology classes in particular, I think he would actually teach the Book of the Dead, the ABD, and get some good results with it too. He said he got students. Some students would get interested and pursue reading the books. So anyway, but I had no idea until he ended up moving out to the West Coast with Galen Porter, his wife, and he was living in the Santa Barbara area. And then, I found out from a lot more contact of Jerry's with the Institute, that he was not only a author of poetry, that he was a writer of academic articles, and he was a published, professor. But he also was a prolific author of poetry, and he was a painter. He was an artist and a painter. And so we have Jerry is not with us any longer, but Galen is in possession of a appreciable collection of Jerry's artwork. And I have to say that when I started seeing this artwork, I was really amazed. I mean, it took my breath away because Jerry is like he's very imaginative. He's very freewheeling. He's got a bunch of kind of sort of black ink or black paint on white canvases, like whimsical sort of not Zen drawings, but they're like mostly figures, but that are very stylized and fantastic and so on. And you probably will have a look at some of those. But also he's got like portraits, very recognizable portraits of some celebrities. He's got portraits of Gurdjieff and of E.J. Gold and Duke Ellington. He's got some jazz art. But then I really appreciate, if you have a look at this painting, it's a 24 by 36 painting called A Quiet Smoke at Sunset. You'll see that he also had a sort of a tremendous sense of irony and humor, that he has actually, he's done a fair number of paintings that are, I would say, I think that Galen could maybe address this, that they're symbolic or they're filled with symbols. And there's a kind of a mixture of caricature and irony and satire and so on. And this Quiet Smoke at Sunset, if you look at it, the palette, the bright primary colors are very typical of Jerry's acrylic painting style. And he's got, he's gone into the Western theme. You've got this cowboy and his horse and the cactus, and he's sitting at the campfire and so on. But it's really stylized, and it's really kind of it's not exactly a lampoon of the Western icons and symbols, but it's Jerry's version of it. It's like you're seeing a little vignette of the West through Jerry Porter's, massive educational background and his understanding of history of American, the Civil War and American racism and the cultural issues and so on. And like, what is the meaning of these cowboy Western, symbols in modern American art, let's say, or translated into modern American cultural conflicts and so on. But I just love the compositions, the colors of this painting. And again, this is about the largest. I don't know if Galen may have a few larger paintings than this that he painted, but these are among the largest in the collection. They're 24 by 36, and it's really, I think this is really a treasure. This would be a treasure to own and to hang on your wall. Galen gifted me, because she knew that I was quite interested in an admirer of Jerry's art. She gifted me with a painting of this size, a 24 by 36 painting, which is a portrayal of a poetry reading approximately like in the 60s or early 70s in Greenwich Village in New York. And it portrays, there's a poet reading. There are Caucasian people here. They all look like beatniks. They're dressed up like bohemians in New York in the 1960s and 70s. And they're having a poetry reading. And there are a mixture of African Americans, men, women. There's a guitar player. There's a poet who's reading, who's black. And it's in this kind of wildly bright primary colors and so on. And I have it hanging on the wall in my office, and I find it an inspiration. I love having it there. So anyway, I strongly recommend that you look through these various styles of Jerry Porter's art and think about acquiring something, either a small painting, a portrait, or one of these larger 24 by 36s. And we're doing this as a benefit for the Institute, which I'm sure that Jerry would approve of from his long interaction and support for what EJ's been doing. Thank you. Because Jerry is like, he's got the credentials. I mean, he's a African American Renaissance man. He's a real unusual, I think, of like an unusual culturally successful phenomenon. An academic who's also an artist and a writer and everything else.